so I don't know Ronald personally. I barely know Sarah. I just met her last night. And the reason I submitted testimony last night alone was because you're not supposed to submit testimony prior to filing a violation. So that's an answer to your gentleman in front of me.
Okay, that has brought us to the end of the extension of time. There are 4 members of the NEC on the queue and 2 members of the general public. If there are any motions to either extend time or cap the queue, those will be taken now. Barbara? Okay, there's a motion to cap the queue. Is there a second? There's a second. That will require a 50% plus 1 vote. If everyone in favor on the NEC would please raise their hands. Anyone who is opposed to that motion, please raise their hands. Okay, that passes 26 to 1. So we have 6 people left in the queue, and we will proceed with them, starting with Les. Les?
My question is for Spencer. If, based on the alleged allegations, if true, do you feel that those actions would bias the election in any way?
I mean, to be honest, I'm not really sure. Because, I mean, I've heard like a lot of people have had maybe similar situations. I really think it would depend like on where it was concentrated. I mean, I only know like a few cases. I mean, personally, I only brought a few. I only brought 2 witnesses to the stand during this trial. So I mean, honestly, I just don't have enough information to say whether or not biased. I mean, like. I'd love to say like it biased against me. I can't. I don't know for sure. I just know that I lost like several votes. I mean, actually, a girl came up to me Saturday night and said like apologized and said like I was lied. She's like, well, I was coerced into voting for Ernest. Like I was actually going to vote for you. So I know I've lost 2 votes, but I mean, honestly, it really depends on where like the prominence of like Ernest's like coercion endeavors like had been focused. I mean, it seems like there were a lot in the Hill, a lot in 1920s comments. Hill. Maybe that would have adversely affected someone who was a candidate from Hill. Okay. I don't know. But 1920s comments seem to be practiced.
Peter, you believe that it's implied that they will vote for you?
Yes.
And then the second question is, did you explicitly ask these 2 victims if they were going to vote for you?
Yes, beforehand. If I would not, again, I wouldn't have not asked them to vote. I wouldn't have not confirmed it. I would have not let them use my laptop. I had made it clear several times, whether it be a flyer or be a verbatim in persuasion, that, hey, I want to win. I want you to vote for me. You can vote for me right now on my laptop. If you're interested in please doing it. It wasn't about a voting opportunity. They can vote on their own computers. Obviously, that wasn't the case. Anybody has access to a private vote. I was providing them a more convenient way to vote for me. Not, I mean, just to vote in general.
I'm filing a violation because I guess I was just willing to take ownership over all the independent cases. I mean, if I'm just an uninformed voter who doesn't care about the election, let's just theoretically, I'm not Spencer, I'm just a regular Joe, uninformed voter who doesn't care about the election. Okay, my vote's still with me, but I may not have voted anyway. I don't really care. I'm not going to go out and a violation against a candidate who admitted voter fraud. But if I know that there are several people like me who also been violated, then maybe I would take. Maybe that would give me more impetus. And so what I did is I basically just brought these people together. I mean, honestly, I don't have any personal testimony in this case. I agree with Ernest in that I wasn't there. But I've heard from dozens of different people that he literally pressed submit on his laptop for himself against their wishes. So I just took ownership over the violation, submitted it because I knew Ben, I knew what to do, and I just gathered all the people in support of the violation who convicted him.
You said that you've made it clear that you wouldn't have let people use your laptop if they weren't going to vote for you because you asked them. But earlier in your testimony, you mentioned that you saw people's laptops and saw that some people were voting for you and others were not.
At that point, once they log in and they become deceiving, hey, I lost. I got played. I got screwed. And at that point, they go, they do their thing. Sometimes, in many instances, I don't recall seeing them really actually technically voting for someone else. Some of them may have told me, hey, I vote for you and not for president. Cool, any vote counts. Also, in general, many of them would say, there was no one who would, in my face, vote for another candidate. Would tell me, could you excuse yourself? I like to vote in private. So I step aside, and hopefully they do, hopefully they don't. I do not know. And in addition to that, as far as, like taking their laptop, they confirm it, they give them a laptop. If they wasn't going to vote for me, they just felt comfortable at any moment, they could have simply logged off in the discussion.
Thanks. you guys get approached by any other candidates, you know, with laptops, as you vote?
And after time, and after his vote, because I already had voted.
So it was after.
Earlier that day I had been, but I was in a rush, so I brushed myself off, but I really was intending to vote, and I wasn't actually even sure when the polls closed, so that's why I jumped at the chance to use the laptop when I ran into Ernest later that night.
Okay, I guess my first question is going to come from the same strain as Rico, David, and Jenica, which is still trying to figure out why the three of you filed this together. Spencer, we heard from you, and I understand why you decided to team up with them. And I'm asking the voters, I suppose, did you team up with Spencer because he had better understanding? Did you know of the existence of the FPC, of the vice chair of elections, prior to discussing this with Spencer?
I don't know what that is, what you just said.
Thank you.
But
I'm the same, I didn't know
Okay,
any services.
thank you. And the other question I have, and this is for Spencer and also the voters, was this, to your knowledge, only, is this only controversial as it pertains to the presidential election? Was it involved at all with the UA? And also, I'd like an estimate of the number of times this has happened for the presidency and the UA elections.
Well, it's not isolated to presidency. So I have testimony that I also submitted from a particular Courtney Jones, who said that she logged in and then he took the computer and started voting for people that he thought she would like for UA, including himself. And so, I mean, it's not isolated to presidency. I mean, in these two cases, I guess it must have been just the president. But I have other written testimony that indicate that he was also voting for himself.
Thank you.
In UA ballot.
And your estimates for presidency and your UA?
I don't think I'm qualified to say, because I've heard like a lot of people like saying, "Oh, my friend." My
Could
friend."
you say how many you've heard?
I mean, probably. I mean, like.
Well, how many cases he personally has heard of?
I mean, personal cases that I've heard of from
Yes.
actual.
Yes.
Like from firsthand.
Yes.
Maybe like 3 or 4 or 5.
Thank you.
And I've heard vicariously of dozens.
Thank you.
It's just variation of the same.
Thank you.
Okay, so that has brought us to the end of the queue. Everyone that was trying to get on the queue and was curious, once the queue has been capped, no people were added on the queue, thus we went to the rest of the queue. That has brought us to the end of questions during this period, and thus to the end of the 3 charges. At this point, we'll move into deliberations. I'll make a couple of points about that before we kick everyone else out that isn't a member of the FPC. The first point is that the public advisor and the grievance officer, both sitting to my left, will not be a part of the deliberations. That is part of the FPC policy in general for the grievance officer whenever any charge is filed by or against the FPC. And with the public advisor, that is true so long as the public advisor has been used by at least one person that has been had a filed charge against. So in this case, at least one person has contacted him, so he will also not sit in on those deliberations. If you would like to be notified via text message the second that we finish and we're going to call everyone back, I will have a list that you can write your number down on, and we will text you. That will be right here, and you can write your number there. We'll also send out an email to that same effect to the entire list of candidates. Otherwise, if you want to hang out in the forum, we'll have someone go down there and tell you when we are done. Other than that, thank you guys all for coming. The election results will be announced after the deliberation.
Say is, I provided a strong case. I made my points. It's ludicrous. It doesn't make any sense. Like this man right here says, how did I submit a vote for somebody without their will? I didn't. I'm innocent. Free Ernest. Because I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm gonna come out clean in this election. Thank you so much.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So the trial just finished. The hearing's over. The witnesses gave their testimony. Ben Guzik and I think, presented a pretty solid case. It's clear that Ernest committed, election tampering and voter fraud on dozens of different accounts. Magnus and Veritas et Prevale. Great is the truth and it prevails. And I think that Ernest will be held seriously accountable for his misrepresentations.
Cool.